Welcome everyone to First Wednesdays with Master Coach Gretchen Heido. I don't know why I can't see myself. Can you guys see me?
I can see you.
Okay, great. So today we're going to talk about why you're their perfect coach. Now, this is something that I actually was excited for Gretchen to talk about. We've talked about this before in the past, and it will really help you step into being a professional coach and also realizing why you are the perfect coach for the clients that you serve. So with that, I'll pass it off to Gretchen.
Well, hello, everyone. It is so good to see all of you today from your various living rooms. It's so fun. I think that we can do that. So tonight, yeah, we're going to talk about this part about why you are your client's perfect coach. And one of the reasons that I think that this is such an important topic is I get the question all the time. Hey, is the coaching industry getting saturated? Is it going to get to the point that there are just too many coaches and too much competition? My answer to that is always no, it won't. And tonight we're going to kind of talk about why. But before we get there, just raise your hand. Have you ever wondered or grappled with this idea that there's just going to be too many coaches out there and it's going to be a lot of competition and not enough people to serve? Okay, so most of you, a lot of you. So here's the thing when it comes to this that I want you to remember is that all of us are uniquely different, and the people that I attract are going to be different than the people that you attract, and so on and so on and so on. And even when you're in a group of coaches like this, or maybe you attend, the ICFLA group or something like that, it is not that there is going to be competition. Instead, I want you to think about it as camaraderie, that's what there is when you're in a group of coaches. It's not about competition. It's about what can I learn? How can I get creative? And where am I different than these other coaches? Something else to remember is that when it comes to our clients, most of the people that you are going to serve are some kind of a former version of who you are, or they have a similar feeling to you in some way. So that's the other piece of this too, of why you're their perfect coach, is that you're going to attract your own people. So I always like to say it's like we're all a light bulb and we attract our own bugs to our light bulb, right? And so that's what this is going to be. So tonight, I just want to get into this with you, and we're going to do a lot of conversation, and you'll have time to think about this for you as well, about your own unique approach and your philosophy and your method and what makes you the perfect coach for your client. So when we think about this, every single one of us has a different set of values, and we all have our different philosophies. When we take a look at our own values, our beliefs, and our experiences, that's the method, if you think of it that way, that becomes distinctly yours. So think about some of your own past experiences that have shaped you and the kind of coach that you want to be. So everyone just think about that for a minute. Some of you are children of divorce. Some of you have been divorced. Maybe you do divorce coaching. Some of you have a real intuitive gift. You grew up being the one who already knew things about people. Maybe you have a more intuitive approach in your coaching, and the people that you attract are intuitives or highly spiritual. Maybe you've got a very deep business background and it's something that you feel quite comfortable with. You might end up coaching inside of teams, groups, organizations, or business people. So just take a moment. I know some of you have done the higher education thing. So take a moment and really think about your own unique background and write a couple of things down that have helped you, again, whether it's a belief, a view, a past background, a pivotal moment in your life. That's going to be part of where we can look for who are your clients. And as you have them, you can start dropping them in the chat. We'll talk about some of them. And as you're thinking about this first part, the next piece that really is important when you think about your own journey is this piece of, well, what made you become a coach? What was your own transformation that got you here? how does this align with some of those aspirations that your ideal clients have? So whenever we're sharing our own journey, there is a piece in there that's really interesting that helps you find your own clients. So I got to coaching because I feel like I've been a natural coach my entire life. People have come to me since I was very small, wanting me to problem solve. And because I am uniquely talented at problem solving, I was very able to take that on. So in later in life in my career, when I was mentoring others or doing public relations for others and that sort of thing, being of deep service to people, I had more than one person tell me, well, you should be a coach. And I had done a lot of my own self-discovery, a lot of therapy, a lot of self-help to get to where I was. And so many of my clients live in that world. So let's just take a minute with any of this first part that we've talked about your own transformation, your own journey, your philosophy, your beliefs and values, the pieces of you that show up. Where might your clients be? And I see some of these things in the chat, but let's unmute and get this conversation going.
Do you mean literally where they might be? Like, where are they physically?
No,
What do you
I mean, if you want to talk, I mean, maybe they're at the library. I don't know if you can think of it that way, great. But I know you've been talking about maybe health coaching,
right,
so
right.
think about it, talk it through.
What I was going to say was I've often thought that because I'm actually the opposite of some of my longer clients in that when they were rising to the top in the business world and getting really successful, I was on this spiritual path. And now they need the spiritual path that I was on.
There you go.
So it's a flip almost. It doesn't,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And so I like what you said about that with the flip. We're further on the journey a lot of the time than some of the clients that we are going to coach. And I will say that with a caveat, because not always. Sometimes we're coaching people who are far smarter than us, more brilliant than we'll ever be, multi-talented, multifaceted, whatever. And maybe we're all of those things too, but we can't see it or feel it. And you can coach them as well. But when we're just thinking about this with, well, who are we going to attract if this market gets too saturated? I'm really seeing even in your list that there's quite a few places where your story relates. So we have family placement, exposure to dominant culture and undeserved communities make me a great mediator, problem solver, and ability to see all sides, spiritual balance and esteem, motivated and ambitious individuals and their teams. So, and on the list goes. This is just important for us to be able to see because it's your starting point. Okay, so it's a good starting point. Anyone have any questions here before we keep going? Comments? I'm looking to see if
I
you
want to
guys.
share a story. Hi,
Yeah, please
everyone. I
do.
did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as this weekend, this is no reason I bring this up is it's very relevant to this discussion. So I was at an event this weekend, and this guy that I've known not super well, but an acquaintance, he said, "What are you doing now? I hear you're doing some sort of coaching." So I don't know where he heard it, maybe from my wife. And I told him what I was doing, and he said, "What qualifies you to do that?" It was like, it's a very challenging question, but so it made me think in the moment. I'm like, geez, but so yeah, all these things that we're talking about here is, who knows? There's any number of answers, but that's that was a pretty rough question to ask when I
How did
haven't
you
done a whole
how
lot
did
of
you
practice
answer
around
it?
it.
How did you answer it?
Because he's a very successful businessman, and so my initial reaction was to go to kind of logistics, like, well, I have a psychology degree, I just was certified as a coach, got 25 years leading companies and teams. My personality is one of really helping people grow and evolve, and so it was just kind of in that realm, which I think is true.
Yes.
But I hadn't thought about it until that moment, and I was put on the spot. So
And let me ask you a question there, and thank you for
yeah,
sharing, because I know that I've been asked too what qualifies you for it.
yeah,
Did you take the comment in a defensive way or in a curious way? How did you feel?
yeah. No, he was more curious. I think for him, I would say that he's in uh, a little bit older white businessman who, maybe is questioning a lot of the, this world of coaching and this, what's happening in 2024 versus when he was. So he was just more curious as to how I would have transitioned out of basically doing what he had been doing his whole life into something completely different.
Really good. And I'm glad that you could hear it that way, because for some of us, we might get a question like that and feel the defenses and the not good enough, not qualified enough, who am I story come up. So the way that you answered it, it seems like it flowed very well. Thank you for sharing that. Edward, I see your hand.
Thank you. I am feeling the push-pull of this question about the energy about who you attract and who you vibe, contrasting with the messaging of, do you need to have a niche? And I have just been embracing, I don't need a niche. And then these questions are kind of triggering me, saying, oh my God, but is that the energy I'm putting out? And it's not a severe trigger, but it's this question of like this push-pull of, do I have a niche? Do I not have a niche? And those questions are bringing that to mind.
Well, very good with this. So let's talk about it for a minute. The whole thing with, do I need a niche? No, you don't. But here's what's going to happen. A niche will be created for you. Coaching Coaches was created for me. This was not my niche. Somewhere along the way, LA Magazine called me one of LA's top coaches, coaching coaches. And I was like, okay, great. I think maybe I'd coach too. So I don't even really know how I got that. Suddenly, I was known for coaching coaches. It became a niche, became a specialty, but you don't have to have a niche to be successful, but you will find that there will be certain segments of people and that sort of thing that you end up coaching, but you might have 3 or 4 niches, so to speak, but they will find you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Edward. Rebecca.
I just thought I'd piggyback on what Edward said, just because people are being honest here. And I know I've been sharing on the site that I am working on my website right now, and I'm really struggling with, and I don't know if I'm overthinking it. I'm sure there's a little of that, but I'm really having a hard time as I look at my pages, because I recently was with a coach where we niched in so tightly. I mean, it was just like and it wasn't so much the niche, it was the pain points and the story and what do they go through every day and da-da-da-da-da. And all that is this succeed with peace thing, right? It's a very tight, successful person who is stressed and da-da-da-da. And it's like, but I'm looking at my clients and I'm like, but that's not all I do, right? So I'm working on my website and it's just like, like how much of that do I put in? And, already I have a page for regular life coaching and I have a page for spiritual coaching. How much do I put in my newfound Christianity? How much do I know I'm open to coaching all spiritual people. And so I would just love to maybe hear a little more about this, like as I struggle with that, or maybe even ask me a question to help me get some clarity.
Well, so for tonight, what I'm going to say is we're going to talk about this. This is part of our Coaching for Coaching program tonight, but in Stairway to Six, when we meet next time, we are going to be talking about this in more depth. The thing that I can tell you is this. One thing that you may want to do for everyone when it comes to your website is to really think about the personality types that you enjoy rather than very specific niche. You can have specialty pages and specialties of different types that you work with: life coaching, business coaching, Christian coaching, health coaching, and then speak to it more specifically on that page. But it's like, I work with this kind of person who's up to this kind of thing in the world. And we basically know, the kind of people that we work with. I work with ambitious people who are up to big things. It's vague, but really that's who I work with. And they can be in life coaching, they can be in business coaching, it doesn't matter, but that's who they are. So that's another way for you to think about it.
Right. And not necessarily speak so directly to their exact problem, because I keep hearing that I'm supposed to have it so spelled out. So when they land on the page, they zoom in and they recognize themselves. It's like sales pages. And I know you don't do that. And that's not how your website is. And you
Yes,
just, and I'm really drawn to that.
and so there you go, because it's exactly what I said. Our clients are some version of ourselves. Now, for someone, a zoomed in sales page might work really well. And in certain situations, it does, in certain situations, it's the right thing. If there's like a workshop that you're trying to enroll
Yeah.
people in, then you want it to be very specific. Even let's say on a specialty page, if you had a page, you were talking about Christianity, that you were going to do Christian coaching, you would want that page to be very specific to that person. But when someone gets to your first home page, yes, you want them to see themselves in it, but it doesn't have to be so specific that nobody else can see themselves in it.
I know. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm just going to keep playing with it and not put
keep playing with it.
just
Yeah.
trust it that it'll come together.
And it will. Jen, I saw your hand.
I just feel like Rebecca, you're kind of saying exactly my own journey of like, and I felt like I sat with my website and like would stare at it, and I'd spend a lot of time doing stuff with zero results. And actually, when I started coaching clients that I actually enjoyed coaching, I knew I was really having impact. I got a request about someone said to me, yeah, your website doesn't match what you're doing. And that conversation, because I was so clear, within one day, I got it all cleaned up. So I think that was something like when I let go of like, because I had spent many, many hours turning, but then it was just like when I was actually doing the work in a way and it was lighting me up, when it came time, when I got kind of like that moment where someone was like, yeah, your website doesn't match what you're doing, right? Someone I knew, I was like, yeah, it really doesn't. And it just like I could flow really fast to do it. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I totally get it. Cause then yeah. So
Thank you. I
Yeah.
just will say thank you to that because I experienced that yesterday. I had a flow day, and then today I went back to my old notes from my last coach, and I was like, I better put this cool sentence in and that cool sentence, and it was like,
Well, and here's something else I'll say to the group as well. Your website isn't what sells your services. It's just not. It's not the thing. So, but what does sell your service is your confidence and the way that you serve. So when you show up in the world and you're going to have maybe these connection calls or you're at a networking group or whatever it is, your confidence about coaching and your confidence in yourself and what you offer is what's going to make a person connect with you. So with Steve, when the person asked him, what qualifies you for that? If he would have been like, I don't really know, and I'm really uncomfortable with this. Gosh, you really put me on the spot. That the person's going to think, see, because you're not qualified, what are you doing? But he
Yeah,
answered it in a really great way. And so our confidence and our attitude of service and true connection, listening for what the other person is saying, listening to what they are going through, that's what creates the conversation. Conversation creates connection. Connection creates a potential connection call. That creates your coaching. That creates your enrollment, blah, blah, and get to contract. But if there's no confidence, there's no connection. And if there's
I
no,
know.
yeah.
I know I'm gonna stop now, but can I just add one quick thing is to say that for me, what I'm struggling with is it's getting new connection calls. It's once I get on the call, I do have that confidence. And so that's I think why I'm so focused on my website. And I know it's not everything. I think the other thing is social media, but you know how it all comes together when you just
All does. Yes.
get into that groove. So thank you.
You're welcome. Nick, go ahead.
Hi. It really changed for me when I kind of realized that there's a differentiation to make here, and that is websites and SEO and all that may work for a coach who's targeting a different strategy or demographic. I think we're all here for a very specific strategy that is completely relationship based. We aren't commodities. We stand out, and we stand out by our relationships and by our nature of giving first.
That's it. Yes. Yes. Diana.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I've been really trying to just apply, but with ease and gentleness and not in a stiff way, some of the things that we're talking about in these first Wednesday sessions and in the Stairway to Six. And so yesterday I had a meeting. I had already had a connection call, and I had a meeting with like the bigwigs of the nonprofit organization. And I, for a variety of reasons, the imposter syndrome, and yeah, I wasn't feeling in myself as much as I would have liked to initially. It at one point early on, one of the board members said, "What qualifies you to do what you do? I'd like for you to talk about that." And I said, "Well, actually, you do." And I'm one of the things that I didn't put in the chat, but what about my background and who I'd like to serve, you have to have a sense of humor. My clients have to have a sense of humor. I'm witty, I'm silly, I use metaphor, I use analogy. And so I said, "Well, actually, you do." And then I said, "I realize what you're asking is what credentials one needs. And there are many people that have different credentials, but actually, what qualifies me is how you feel after this conversation. Would you like to ask me more questions, or would you like for me to talk to you about what I do and how I do it?" And they said the latter. And I got this feeling of like the curtains open. And then I stepped in and and I was fine. So you're right, Gretchen, I just wrote that down. Your website, for years, I've been trying to get this coaching business off the ground, and I've been hung up on like a website. And I don't have a website. And I was embarrassed when they asked me if they, what do you have that we can look you up? And what I do have is testimonials. What I do have is several people that they can talk to that will say, "She is amazing."
That's it.
I don't always feel that way, but the confidence is what sells it, and what it is that I do. And I'm so glad that I practice the "so what do you do" conversation. So it's the confidence. And I think I'm going to try. My heart beats and I can't breathe deeply when I think about it, but I'm going to try to stop thinking about like the website and the presentation, because so much of me thinks that I need like the stuff to show that I am who I am.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, and thank you for sharing that with the group, because it just shows, we're all the same. We all feel the same. We all have those moments where it's like, okay, it's trial by fire. What am I going to say here? I love that you used humor. And that's where this discussion tonight about what makes you their perfect coach is coming into play. For you in that moment, it was your humor. It was your light touch that you were able to say that. Again, we're all going to meet situations differently, and the people that are attracted to us and that we're going to work with are going to be attracted for different reasons, and that is completely okay. Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna hit on Rebecca's point in the chat. Websites are good for people my clients have gone there to look for endorsements more than anything else and what people are saying about me. As well as like what workshop offerings I have. They've never really paid attention to the coaching piece, although that's what we end up doing. So website is it's the way I view it, or the way I use it, is for people to know who I am and what I do and what people are saying about me. And that's been super helpful.
When I started, my website was just so basic, and the logo wasn't even nice looking. It would have been better for me not to have a logo, but it didn't matter. That's not the thing that's going to sell, because here's the next part. You want to be confident, you want to be service-minded, and you need to be a wonderful listener. Because what we're looking for is the emotion, okay? It's the emotional connection. It's not the thing that the potential client is saying to you that you're ever really going to coach around. It's the thing underneath the thing, the motivator that's lying deeper, that's going to take you listening deeply so that you can ask great questions, powerful questions to expose what's really going on. That's what ends up helping someone to become a client. It's not that you had the best website. Oftentimes, maybe you do have the best website, but you were too hip, slick, and cool to slow down enough because you were so shiny and full of yourself and whatever it is that you couldn't hear what the client really needed. And so even think about when people make you offers. We get spammed constantly. I get spammed. I have so many spam emails per day. They don't even have my name right half the time. Someone called me Paige the other day. It's like, delete. Come on, whatever. And so when we're going too fast and we're not connecting to the person emotionally, you're not going to have something in there anyway. There's not going to be any kind of connection. I had a guy last week who reached out to me. We both did something at UCLA. And he said, hey, I'm reaching out because, I love Southern California, used to be at UCLA. Maybe we were there at the same time. And he said, but look, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I like to do business with people where there's some kind of a connection. And we both did UCLA. Great. I love that he already knew that. Really easy to find out. It's on my LinkedIn. And then he said, but here's my ask, and here's what I'm like peddling, basically. And he was so honest. He's like, I'm selling auto insurance. And I just wrote back to him and I got to say, I really loved your connection. Thank you for actually finding something out about me. I don't need that right now, but it was a great connection, because he had something there and he was witty in it. He was funny. It made me want to connect. And so it's going to be the emotional piece. Now, a lot of people are probably going to hit delete in that, but they're not his target market. And so it's like your personality is going to come through, and it's supposed to. We're not robots. Yes, we're all following, hopefully, most of the ICF basics about the way to coach, but your personality is going to be what draws the person in. The emotional content's going to draw them in. Your deep listening. It's not going to be, did you have a niche? Is your website the shiniest? Was your social media the best? It's what I'm saying is the way I'm listening of deep service to this person, and are they able to connect with it? So let me pause there. What are you hearing in that?
It's about relationship, yeah.
About relationship. Yeah. What else?
It's really easy to get distracted away from the focus on relationship.
Yes. And to get focused on what instead, Nick?
What other people think, or our own fears about what other people think.
Yes. Yeah.
So why do you think we, and I don't want to include everyone, but I'm just going to say the royal we, why do we get distracted by, is my website good enough? Do I have the proper material, etc.? Why do we get distracted by that?
I have an answer for it. What's your answer for it?
My personal answer?
Yeah.
My personal answer is probably imposter syndrome. Is this real? Particularly starting out. So, Edward, I know you have 2,000 hours of coaching. I have a fraction of that, and so I still struggle with it. So yeah, I think, Rebecca, I find times where I spend a lot, and frankly, I waste a lot of time on my website. It does allow me to kind of, feel like I am doing, I am a professional when I'm doing it, but on the other hand, I'm not actually moving anything forward. And part of it is I'm just not confident, probably 100% in making the connections.
Well, and so this is the part, right? A website or non-money making activities are safe. We don't really have to be vulnerable. We're trying to get it right to create a certain facade. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I want people, when they come to my website, to think, oh, she's professional and she's going to handle it. That's really, I want them to have that confidence in there. And I think that it probably conveys it. But the truth is, it really is the part about needing to connect with someone on a deep level that's going to sell coaching. We're not a commodity. Someone else said that earlier. I always think of like carpet cleaning service. It's easy. You go to the website, it's probably all the same. You book it. It doesn't really matter that much. You don't need to necessarily have a conversation with the person that's going to come over. You can probably find all the information on the website. But the truth is, with coaching, it's never going to be that, especially for the investment that we want people to make. They need a conversation. They need to feel seen, valued, and heard. And that's why they end up choosing you, is because you help them to feel like they mattered. You heard something in them that someone else was not able to detect. And again, that won't come necessarily from the website. Here's something else that when we're thinking about this and being the perfect coach, this will help you with your own confidence, and it will also help the client, the potential client, to have confidence in you as well. It's those success stories about what you have done with other clients that have worked, and success stories about coaching, being coached yourself. Both are very important. Most of my clients know that I have a coach. I work with a coach. That's on purpose, partly because I am a coach and it feels sort of fraudulent if I'm not with a coach. And so we have coaches, we work with coaches, and then to be able to say, here's some of the results that I experienced in coaching that I know with my personality, with my own traits, it wouldn't have happened as fast. It might not have happened at all. I might not have thought about it this way. That insight that I got that helped me to create this thing over here maybe wouldn't have happened if I didn't have a coach. So that creates confidence that, wow, coaching really works. And when you have a good story, testimonial, whatever you want to call it, of something that transpired for one of your clients, a way that they have transformed, that also is going to help that person to feel comfortable with you, because it's not you saying, this is what coaching is going to do, and here's why you should do it. No one's listening. Nobody's going to hire you. But when it's like, hey, I was working with a client who this is what happened for them. I don't know if that would happen for you or not, but this is something that's happened for one of my clients. We're making it that we're not promising them something. It's like, I don't know. This is what's happened for me in coaching. This is what's happened for a client or two with coaching, those sorts of things. So that really helps. Mark, I see your note here. Is there anything that you want to say before you have to log off tonight? I want to make sure that you get included.
No, I think the early focus of the website, I think someone mentioned in the chat that they've gone through 3 different versions, and so have I. It's just, it gives you a professional feel when someone goes, who are you? And having a Google page so you can get reviews. I think that's important for basic trust. But like you're saying, it's that personal connection and your listening ability and all that kind of stuff. That's the key once you get people in the door.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Mark. And it was so good to see you tonight. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what sets you apart. This is something that's important. Steve, you got put on the spot with it by that person who was like, hey, why are you qualified? Part of what they're asking is what sets you apart? Why you in this field? And so we all should have some go-tos for what sets us apart, or why did we get into this thing in the first place? I know for me, before I was coaching coaches, part of what set me apart when I was helping business leaders and entrepreneurs was that I'd been a publicist for a very long time, and I'd had my own PR firm. And so having that experience in both of those things created trust right away for the types of people that I wanted to work with. I had some credibility automatically because I'd had a successful business. It didn't fold. I knew something about business and business practices, one, because I'd had one, but also just because of all that I'd done in the PR world. And they could see it. They could look up, some of the stories that I'd had placed and that sort of thing. So if you were coming to me because part of what you wanted was business coaching / consulting, and you knew we were going to go over your marketing, you really felt good about the work that we were going to do together. So think for a minute of some of the things that really do set you apart, where you feel super comfortable in that world. It's probably going to be like the question that I asked earlier, where a lot of you, had some answers there. But for me, money has always been something that I'm completely comfortable talking about. That sets me apart. Most people don't want to talk about money at all. They think it's rude. They have a lot of ideas about it, and I just don't have that. And so that was something that set me apart and made it easier for people to come to me to have money conversations. So think for yourself, because this is, again, Rebecca, to your point that you had said earlier, when we hear something from a potential client of a place that we know we need to hone in on, it's like, yeah, I know something about that. I relate to that. I get it. So that's what you're looking for. It's really this part where the two of you meet up and there's that, oh, these are my people. I know this person could help me because. And those are the moments that if you can see them, you'll know when you're in a situation of how to answer, how to respond, and how to connect. So I'd love us to just have some open dialogue here. We really talked about the confidence. We talked about your credibility, talked about the emotional component. We talked about success stories. We talked about the rapport, because the rapport is very important too, the powerful questions, the active listening. So when we go back to this first part, you know, of the whole thing that we were talking about today about what makes you their perfect coach, what are you seeing now that maybe 38 minutes ago you didn't know? What's been illuminated for you?
I'm really enjoying Diana's response to, you know, what makes her qualified, and you do. That's really got me thinking. I enjoy that.
Good, good. Diane, I see your hand. Go ahead.
It's not something that I didn't see, but it's just that something that I didn't realize was as useful. And that is that I have credibility in a lot of different arenas. I have credibility in the academy. I have credibility in the hood, as they say.
Yep.
I have credit, and and because of my family placement, the era that I grew up, where I grew up, I have really thick skin, and I can talk about anything.
There you go.
People feel comfortable being their full and true selves with me because I don't get embarrassed. But I think the credibility in different areas is really something I'm going to be pushing more.
Well, and that's the part too that will make them feel confident with you, because what we're looking for, again, with the confidence is to create connection, which creates trust. Yeah, wonderful. Rebecca Saxon, go ahead.
Couple of things. So there's the credibility piece, which I've always downplayed. Like I have a long-term client who's very successful, and she's like, you need to put out there that you're a nurse. It makes people trust you. And I'm like, I don't put all my letters behind my name all the time. But the other thing that I have that I think is unique is because I've been through so much emotionally and I've done so much deep healing, kind of like what Diana said, like I can hold space for anything. I mean, I can really be there, and I create a lot of safety. And I think that's what ends up making my coaching unique too. And I think I've said this to you, is that it's not all structure. It really is like a deep heart space. And it's why I have all my money is from repeating clients right now over and over. That's a good thing on one hand, but it scares me because I'm not out there and I'm not getting new clients. But I mean, it's like a weird good challenge. But yeah, like how do I forgot to tell you guys. So I decided one of my differentiators, I'm going to use the word high touch, that I'm a high touch coach, 1-to-1. That's all I do. It's freaking deep. It's deep and so, but then again, how do I translate that? Well, they're just going to have to meet me, and I'm going to have to get my butt back out on social media. I'm just having a hard time. I'm in this weird gap of knowing what do I talk about. And that's one reason why I think working on the website is important, because it's helping me. It's like I'm touching in, I'm getting down to brass tacks. Hey, this is what I really do. And then I get the idea for writing content or making a video. It's like this dance, they're all connected. So I really have to trust, but I can't give up, and sometimes it's overwhelming. You said we were going to hit some edges, and I'm definitely feeling it. So is that a differentiator? That how do you the only thing I could come up with was the high touch. And then I think all my testimonials, people talk about that. I think that safety or that.
But I think it's deeper than that for you with your differentiator. It's more than high touch. It's your intuition. It's all of your experience. It's all of your past. The things that have happened in your life are different than my life. And so that's your differentiator. And that's the piece that we all need to be leaning on, is we've all had different experiences. Yeah.
Do we translate that though or you just want us to be aware of it?
I just want you to be aware of it. And when you're saying that you're not sure what to talk about on social media or otherwise, you have a list of topics to talk about. You've been putting them in Stairway to Six. Just start talking.
Yeah, I know.
You're talking. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Edward, what about you?
What I'm really touching home with is the vibe and the energy and who you attract. And similar that we lose tone in texts and in emails sometimes, the tone and our vibe are lost in perhaps our websites. And so the aha for me is if I'm really going to attract clients, I should find that speaking platform. So that they can see me on stage or they on Zoom, so that they can get my vibe and my energy. Because through my website, they're not going to see that who I am, a little arrogant, a little polished, a little queer, a little irreverent, a little all of that. That's the person I want to attract. I'm not going to be able to put that on a website. So let me put myself on a stage or have a speaking platform where they can get my vibe, and that's who's going to find me. And that's the aha, that I'm having.
That's huge. And I love everything that you said there, especially the part a little polished, a little this, a little that, because that's what it is. That's our uniqueness. We're all a little bit of, 2 scoops of this and 1 tablespoon of that you can't see it on the website. You can only feel it in the interactions. And that's where the connection part matters so much. The staticness of a website, sure, it's important. I'm not pretending that it's not, but it's anytime a person is going to see you or have an experience with you, that's the connection piece. Yeah, thanks. Rebecca Chong.
I put it in the chat as well, but one thing that I haven't really thought about until now is my age. It's something I'm pretty self-conscious of because I am younger, or I mean, I'm not that young, but I feel younger as a coach, and I sometimes have been very like, oh, why would they, like, I'm their age or I'm like the same age or younger than them. I've coached people older than me, and I was just thinking I had a client and she was, seeing multiple or like checking with multiple coaches and kind of interviewing her coaches herself. And when she chose me, I was like, oh, I'm really glad. And she just was like, I just felt like you get it. Like even though you're the youngest, like I feel like you really just get it. And she didn't say why, but I think that was the point, was that we connected so deeply. And all my clients, now that I think about it, I have all these clients that are just my peers, which at first it's like, oh, but I'm supposed to be wiser, or like I should know more. But actually, that's what makes me know more, is because I am like very much in their circle. And so I deeply understand their issues. So it's just like actually really funny now I'm thinking about it. Like all the people that reach out to me, I like went to school with. They were my classmates. They're like literally my age, or maybe, plus or minus a few, but it's interesting.
Well, it's like an inside out approach. You know something from the inside that they need or that they want. You've seen it, you've lived it, you've had that same experience. And so it's that. The other just funny thing that came to me, and this is my own differentiator, I say weird stuff, is it reminds me of the Tom Cruise moments of like, you had me at hello. And whatever that movie was where he says that line, and the girl says, you had me, or whoever says that you had me at hello. But that part of being known, being seen, it's like, oh, there's that connection. That's what people feel. That's how you know that there's going to be a match there. Thanks for sharing that. Michelle, hi.
Hi there. There is so much about, I think the big aha, even though I came in a little late, was about you have to put yourself out there as you are, and then your people find you. And that idea of being a little this, a little that. So, I mean, my credibility mostly comes from having run a business for 12 years now. Being an accountant, being a CPA for almost 30 years now. And so, there's definitely the financial and the business acumen that comes with that. But also, I mean, I think probably bigger is being a Black woman business owner in a field where like Black business owners usually fail in 18 months. So on average, I'm doing okay. And
Great, yeah.
it's not readily apparent, but I'm also half Japanese. And so there's that idea of like growing up and being other, because I grew up in a Black environment, and then in the world, like, there are less of us than there are of other races. So just understanding like being part of a marginalized population and being able to bring that to clients and having some success in business is part of my credibility.
That's right. I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. So we all have these different pieces. So when you think about that fear, too many coaches, I'm not good enough, I'm a fraud, I haven't practiced enough, my website isn't great, I don't know what to charge. None of that really matters. What matters is, can you connect? If someone has a conversation with you, do they walk away changed? Do they feel like you were really there for them? Did you expose something that was so important in such a bold way that was full of kindness, yet intensity, that it made them stop and think? That's the connect. That's the part that will make you uniquely different. If you're feeling like you are still not great at the listening piece, and hey, listening was like the hardest part of coaching for me, and asking questions. Those two things, I was like, I don't actually know if I can do this career. I don't really want to listen to anybody, and I hate questions. So two things that were hard because that's a barrier for this. Practice. Get together with another coach. Go on the Coaching for Coaches page. For those of you who are in Stairway to Six, go to that page. If you're ICF, do ICF peer coaching, reciprocal coaching. It will help you to get honest feedback about your listening. And it's a great place to really practice. Practice with people in your life the reflective listening, to hearing deeper. They're going to think it's kind of weird at first because they're kind of like, what? Why are you? That's vulnerable. What's happening? Practice it anyway. Practice it anyway. But that's the part that's going to make it that it doesn't matter how many lighthouses are on the hill. There are so many boats in the water, and the right boat is going to paddle to your lighthouse. Okay, so I would love to hear, what are some of the actions that you want to take based on what we talked about tonight? I always like your learning to turn into an action, a gem, something that you are going to do, or else this is just nice information, but who cares?
I'll go.
Thanks.
I'm going to go look at what I wrote in Stairway to Six that I can make a video about. And because I've got to get back out there. The difference, though, is that I don't coach coaches. I'm not a business coach. So I often don't know how much I should be talking about my own process. Even though I've been talking to others and they just do their process, and women are just gravitate to them. They don't, for coaching. I mean, and they're not business coach. Well, yeah, they're not business coaches, I don't think. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to make a video before we meet, at least one. And it's going to go on YouTube and Facebook and maybe Instagram if I can figure it out.
Good.
Before I see you guys in April 25th or whatever, at least one. I really should freaking do more. I used to do so many more, but
well, you're going to start with the one. Start with the one and see what happens. Good.
Okay.
Rebecca, I see some things in the chat. Who can unmute and just share some of, what actions do you want to take?
So I'm more of a writer than a speaker. So just to write and get the word out. I mean, a couple of people wrote, continue to share my story. And I think that's just the common theme. It's like, how do people know who you are if you don't tell them? So just use whatever medium works and tell them.
Yes, yes. And really the key here for all of you, and I'm looking at your different comments, the key, the takeaway, the action for everyone is connection, connection, connection. How can I connect? What medium will allow me to connect? Where can I find people who would be interested in something that I have to offer? Who are the people that I'm really going to understand that I can be of service to because I deeply get their life? That's it. That's it. So this doesn't have to be hard, and you can also make it really fun. We get to know these different things about ourselves, and we've all been through the path of struggle. Not one of us hasn't. We've all been through the path of struggle. And when you think about those struggles and what they're meant for now, it was never just for that struggle. It was, who can you go help now because you had that? What experience do you have that could deeply benefit somebody else? So think about those things. I know we're done just a little bit early. Does anyone have any other comments or questions tonight before we say goodbye? Hey, it's really good to see all of you. Keep sharing in the Facebook group, keep doing the work, keep connecting. And really, I want you all to remember that you are right and perfect coach for the people that you're supposed to coach. The ones that you don't get, the ones who are no's, the ones who it was a weird conversation, that's okay. That's like that, what do they say? Man's rejection is God's protection. Like, just go with it. Go with it with that if they said no, they weren't for you anyway. And that's all right. On to the next one.
Question?
Rebecca, you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, since you said we had time and you just said something, you said something about who can I help because I had that too. And I mean, from that statement, I feel like there's so many things that I could address. What would you say would help us to narrow down what that is? I mean, I guess it would go back to the people we like to work with.
I don't
Right.
look to narrow it down. So that's not my lens. I don't look to narrow it down. I would make a list and then see where you have the most energy.
Okay, for that. And am I saying it right? Who can I help because I had that too?
Yeah, I mean, that's off the cuff. Yeah, but something like that is what I said. And what you're thinking about, because remember, in coaching, we're not telling people what to do, but you know a little something about it. Your heart is tender in that area.
Okay, well, yeah, that's helpful. Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, everybody, you have a wonderful night, and I will see you soon. Take good care.